Hey, Tree Believers. Chris Matt coming at you with X-Force number 32. This is Child's Play, part 1 of 4. No, it's not Chucky. Sorry. If it was about Chucky, I'd probably be running in terror because that still gives me nightmares to this day, and I'm almost 40. This was a 4-part crossover between the X-Force and the New Mutants. And to a degree, it kind of reminds me of the modern day Avengers arena where Arcade captured the Young Avengers, what was it? A whole bunch of other teams. I can't remember what they were off the top of my head, and pitted them against each other in a battle royale style. But in this one, the teammates aren't put in a battle royale. Instead, they're being hunted. It's called The Young Hunt. And before we even jump into this, the print date on this book was 1994. And I got excited when I opened it because I saw that we were focusing on Magma. But here, I really hate that they kind of disassembled what Claremont set up with her. It says, once her name was Amara Aquila. She was a citizen of Nova Roma, a civilization whose residents thought they were descendants of ancient Rome. She was wrong. Her life was a lie crafted by a powerful, immortal mutant named Selene, which are the externals, I believe. Now, she's learned her name is Alison Cressmeyer, and she was the daughter of the Great Britain's ambassador of Brazil. So this kind of sets the framework of what's going on. There's people set up in Brazil helping these people that were in Nova Roma, trying to reintegrate them into society. But I hate that they kind of disparaged everything that Chris Claremont wrote through the New Mutants. I don't know if that happened last issue. If you guys know where that happened, where she found out that she was being brainwashed by Selene, let me know down in the comments and I'll do a review on the book. But you can kind of see that she's hurt. You see the lava flowing, and she's not exactly happy that her life was a lie. So while she's sitting here kind of having this existential crisis, for lack of a better word, we see these two in the bushes. That's the girl. Simply adorable. A little lava would do to warm my toes under the blankets any day. Eh, sister? For once, Andreas, consider the priority of our mission over the dictates of your hormones. And with that, the trap is sprung. And it says, Child's Play. First move with the roll of the dice. And it's a really great splash page, the way they do the paneling here. You see Amara is just like, what is going on? And just all these people coming out of nowhere to capture her. And so right off the bat, we got stakes going on, and you're feeling for this character because we've grown with her for decades, or at least almost a decade at this point. But before we go any further, let's talk about who made this book. This is Fabian Nicieza, writer, Tony Daniels, penciler, John Holdridge, inker, Chris Ianopoulos doing the lettering, Marie Evans doing the colors, Bob Harris was the editor, Tom DeFalco, editor-in-chief. And I'd like to say thanks to Scott Liddell and Chris Boccolo, who, getting towards this time, was writing Generation X, which if you haven't read Generation X, awesome X-Men book. So here we're introduced to Andrea and Andreas Strucker. They are part of the Fenris Corporation, and they are just a nasty brother-sister team. And Amara was apparently the first to be captured in this, what's called the Young Hunt. So Amara was taken, and then we see that the next person that they're trying to get is Manuel de la Rocha, who is empath. And here, I like the way he's written here, how he's trying to reform himself as where he's just a complete ass in Hellions. So he's trying to get away from this Young Hunt, and you can see that the Fenris, the Strucker family here, when they unite, their powers go off, and you can see they have no care about what happens to even their drones. They're saying, oh, there's a few that are still alive. They'll get up and work for us. And so they're trying, at first, the reason that they're doing this is because Manuel possessed their squad, because that's kind of what he does, is to make them work for himself. So he's trying to defend himself, and that's why they killed half of their hunter squad. And before we get any more with Manuel, we are all of a sudden into this Hellfire Gala, which I will say right now, I think this gala was a lot more interesting to read than anything with the Dawn of X books. But anyway, we're not going to talk about that. Here's Shinobi Shaw, who is Sebastian Shaw's father. He's allegedly killed him, but you know, comics. This is Vance, what is his name? Vance something or other, but his alter ego is Justice. I can never remember his last name. So you see that they've infiltrated the Hellfire Club, and Shinobi is kind of on hunting down, or he says, I have 2 very special guests to attend to. So this was kind of like an interlude in a sense, because here we see Warren and Betsy, and from what I understand, this scene is the exact same scene that you see in the second volume of X-Men, number 29. So I kind of like how it lines up continuity-wise where the other comics are. I always enjoy when writers and artists collab in that sense, kind of like how they did with Nightwing and Batman during the Court of Owls, and they reenacted the scene where Batman backhands Robin. They do the exact same thing both in Batman and Nightwing. So it kind of gets that sameness of the book. But you see that Vance is essentially infiltrating the Hellfire Club to see how the Inner Circle is being rebuilt. Here's Night Thrasher, which is one of my other favorite new warrior characters. So really interesting stuff here, and you find out that this young hunt, what happens is well, here, I'll read it right here instead. It says, the question is, why are they doing this? The usual reasons, Dwayne: boredom, greed, ego, power. At this point, I don't know if why they're doing this is as important as who I think they're going after next. And he's like, and that would be, from what little info I've been able to piece together, the next targets are any of the surviving members of the old New Mutants and Hellions teams. So that's why we see Amara and Manuel, Empath, getting attacked. And then we cut over to the Gerthies farm. And I really liked during this time period how they were working this relationship between Warpath and Siren. And you can see how they both have these loss, and yet they're able to positively build one another up. How, as we've seen in a couple of issues ago, how she was just hardcore into drinking. You can see that Jimmy, I was like, oh, what was Warpath's name? Jimmy has pulled her from that brink, thank you. And what she says is very poignant, because they're all here because of Sam's father's death. She goes, staring at this gravesite of the loved ones we've lost. Your family in Camp Verde, me mom in Ireland, just a week ago, and now Sam's father here in Kentucky. Is this all we share in common? Is this all that binds us together? The fact that we've all suffered so much pain and tragedy? And so Warpath's saying, you know, ever since my brother John, who was Thunderbird, joined the X-Men and was killed, I've tried not to look back. I've just kept trying to move forward. And there's a moment of levity. She's just like, you're lying just to make me feel good. He's like, yeah, well, did it work? But it just, whew, that was a little heavy. And the reason that they're here is because Boom Boom and Sam are missing. And so what they end up having to do is talk to the youngest daughter, Paige. Paige Gerthy, why does that name sound familiar? This is Husk. She's just recently discovered that she can husk. So this is way before she joins Generation X. And so it's kind of interesting to just see her as a Gerthy child instead of as how we kind of start to see the family down the line, especially when the youngest sister gets a sword or, you know, slaughtered through her in that Dawn of X book. Anyway, and what was her name? Her mutant name, Ariel or something like that. Anyway, I guess she retells what happened last issue, which I do not have. That's why we're jumping ahead. But Sam and Tabitha were apparently captured by this character, who they do not name here for a minute. I'm like, who is this? But I had to look it up. It's Sienna Blaze. I'm not 100% sure on her, but you see that she's part of this young hunt too. So like a lot of these characters that wouldn't seem to have a lot of interest in one another are working together, and you're like, why? And so Paige is recounting what she saw. I like this moment where Cable's sitting out on the porch, and Domino's like, what do you think, Nate? I think I would have loved to have grown up here. I think I'm starting to understand why I've let it, or I think I'm starting to wonder why I've let us keep our base in the middle of the flowing desert when there's so much more these kids could have. So you kind of start to see, all the way from New Mutants 86, you start to see how this embittered, hardened Cable is starting to break down a little bit. You see the father-son relationship he has with Sam Gerthy, and how he really watches over these teammates like they're his children, and what he wishes he could give them because of what he couldn't get because of Cyclops having to send him to the war-torn future because of the legacy virus. And so they're trying to figure out what's happened to him. And here we see where Amara, we see Boom Boom, we see Sam, and then everyone working together, which is interesting because I didn't know who Graydon Creed was until after X-Men Prime. So to just kind of see him as like this big thug here, it's like, okay. And then Sienna Blaze, Fitzroy, Shinobi Shaw, they're all being orchestrated under the Games Master, which I'm not 100% sure on this character. If y'all know more about him or where he first appeared, let me know down in the comments. But I just, again, love the 90s paneling this way. Just so much that you can fill up and just look great. And I like how the Games Master, you know, he just ignores all the bickering that these people have and just lays down the law, which kind of inspires Fitzroy to kind of take an initiative like Shinobi does. But we get back to Emplate running from Fenris, and he comes up on this camp where all the people that were part of Nova Roma are being treated and trying to be reintegrated back into society. And again, Fenris does something that's just horrible. But before anything else can happen, we see this person up in the trees. It says above them, in the leafy canopy, a figure moves. And the attackers suddenly find themselves victims. And we see this lady here. This is Robert DaCosta's, some spots, mother. Bobby is missing. No one knows where he is, so that's still an arc that we need to tie in. But she's like, what was some kind of energy lances? But who? You. Much more effective, I'd say, than conjuring up frightening dream images, wouldn't you say? Psychic manifestations used as neural synaptic paralyzing agents. Good day, Ms. DaCosta. Sorry about what happened to your son. But I guess in a way, he was lucky, huh? Now Bobby doesn't have to worry about getting hunted down by these murderers. But Moonstar does. So here I'm like, wait a minute. I feel like I've lost something because Sam thought that Danny was a villain. I don't know when she got back from Asgard, because when they return in New Mutants 86, Danny stays behind because she has, what is it called? Duties to the Valkyries. So if y'all know what issue she returns to Earth, let me know so I can read it. But just seeing her in an X-Force comic and just seeing her back to style with her bow and arrow, such a sight for sore eyes. And I just cannot wait to see where this goes because, again, Danny's like my #1 New Mutant character. Her and Sunspot always are my top 2 favorites, with Magic being #3. But anyway, just welcome sight, and she looks so much like a Spider-Woman. That's who I thought it was at first until I read that Moonstar and saw the bow and arrow, and I went, oh no, this is Danny. That's trade Danny right there. And oh boy, there's something Fitzroy reads here where he's deciding to take the next parts of the New Mutants out. I'll let you guys pause it and read it, but I'm just kind of like, whoa, that's bad, okay? But before we can even get in the battle, this one's like you're getting all this build up for this issue. You want to see a big, slug out, nasty fight between Fitzroy and X-Force. But the book jumps to another interlude, which I don't want to give away. You guys are going to have to read this book. But I'm hoping at least in the next issue, we're going to see a nasty, strung out, beat down with Fitzroy, who, if you're not so sure who he is, go back and read the first appearance of Cable, which I think is Uncanny X-Men 302 or 303, I forget. But it says here, the mutants of this day seem to have a nasty habit of fracturing facial features I'm rather partial to. And then the editors say, a reference to the beating Fitzroy received in Uncanny X-Men 302. So there you go. But I feel like this Child's Play is really leading up to be a good read. Yes, this is an old book, blah, 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 I don't care. It's my first time reading it, and I really enjoyed it. I was not bored. And just seeing Danny back, it was just like, yes! And just kind of seeing this romance that's building up between Warpath and Siren. Just a lot of good stuff going on. I miss when the X-Men were like this. This was like the fever pitch of mutant fever. If you weren't there in the 90s, I feel sorry for you. You missed something special. I mean, you could go to Pizza Hut and you'd get like Wolverine or Spider-Man on your cup. That was some good stuff. Anyway, if you've enjoyed this comic book, please first and foremost support your local comic shop and grab a copy. If you've enjoyed this review, we really would appreciate if you take a moment to hit like, share, and subscribe. Helps the club channel more than you could possibly know. And if you wouldn't mind hitting that fancy little mutant bell next to subscribe, that way as we continue to upload content, you guys will get notified. Come to the channel, and we love hearing your feedback and just talking with y'all down in the comments below or our social media pages, which I'll make sure to leave the links down in the description. So with all that said, I hope you all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading. Thank you so much for stopping by, and happy hunting, true believers.